Hi everybody, sorry for the delay. Welcome to Transfiguration. Tonight we're going to be connecting with Clara, our Spork Dork, as she's better known on Instagram. Hopefully she'll be on in just a moment. We're a little iffy about the connection that we might be able to make, but we're going to see if we can make this work first of all. So, I apologize for the delay. There was a last-minute visit that I wasn't expecting. So, hopefully we will be able to get this interview going. If not, we'll see what happens. So this is Transfiguration, a show where I interview just everyday transgender people living their lives. So we are collecting true real-life stories from real trans people. And so, I guess I'm just kind of filling in at the moment until Clara is able to join us. So, if anybody has any questions about the show, or for me specifically, by all means, go ahead and ask while we're waving. Hi, everybody. Hi, Stacy. Hi, Kristen. Hi, Rachel. And here we go. She's on. She's made connection. Let me send the invite. Okay. Hi, Jane. And this is the danger with doing live shows, folks. And there she is. Woohoo!
Hello. So I've got everything set up to be on my computer, and it's not working on my computer, so I'm doing it on my phone anyway.
Okay. Well, that works. Do you have enough battery charge? Are you plugged in?
No, I'm not. That's a very good point. I should probably work on that. Hey, sweetie, can you grab it for my charger for me? Thank you. It's on this way.
Fabulous. Well, it's so nice to actually talk to you and face to face. I mean, okay, so for anybody who has been watching the show, if you're curious, Clara was actually one of the first people I started following on Instagram. I mean, I started following Clara back before I even had 100 followers. So it's been a little while.
It has been a bit.
Honestly,
this is the first time we're talking.
The reason I started following you was because of all the sword fighting stuff you had on there.
Love the sword fighting.
Mm-hmm. All right, so if you would please introduce yourself to our wonderful and vast audience.
Well, my name's Clara, and pronouns are she, her, and that's me. I'm in Virginia, so today was 95 with like 80% humidity, something god awful like that. I just moved a big steel cabinet right before coming on here, and I was just dripping with sweat, and I'm like, oh crap. See. And I've been watching, so I know that the language is pretty clean, so I'm going to work really hard to keep that going for you.
Hold on. It just depends on who's watching, but I do tend to have some pretty loyal high schooler followers, too. Yeah. So we try to keep it PG-13.
I'm going to try real hard.
Okay. And, so we try to keep it PG-13, but, we understand we are human. We will make mistakes. So, and fortunately, there's no FCC who's going to fine me if we,
Excellent.
We slip up. So, Clara, tell me, standard question, at what point did you understand yourself to be transgender or, not fitting in the societal expectations of what your gender would supposed to be at birth?
Sure. It's obviously been a process. And like so many people, I think, especially people who come out later in life, I'm 42. Most people that, most people that come out later in life, it's one of those things where you realize it and then you go, oh yeah, that makes sense. So this forming of myself at this point probably started back in about 2012. I got onto, there had been little incarnations, little bits here and there, throughout ever. like in high school, I would wear skirts at the time, like long, flowy hippie skirts. Those long, cottony, flowy skirts were in vogue, and I would wear those sometimes to high school, which it was, obviously fodder for a lot of awesomeness from my peers. But I was in the theater department, so my close friends were all totally cool. It's those and combat boots for my look. And then, and then that continued into college and stuff. And then life happened, and I got married very young and got a corporate job very young right out of college, and all of that part of me just got pushed down because it just couldn't be. And even at that time, I didn't have a word for it or anything like that. So, and it would kind of pop up a little bit here and there over time, but really it was about 2012 when I hopped onto Tumblr for the first time, and started seeing some trans stuff on Tumblr, and not PG-13 trans stuff to start with, but that was my introduction to the actual trans community.
Yeah, this was back before Tumblr was NSFW protected.
Oh, yes.
Different
and so that kind of got me thinking, and then I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is connecting here. And then that continued over the course of quite a few years to, I think, 2016, where, 2015, 2016, it really was coming to a head for me. It was the only thought I had. I couldn't go about my day without thinking about it. And it got to be so much noise in my head that I was just losing my mind. Everywhere I went, it was like, what if this person knew? What if that person knew? What if these construction workers that I'm having to meet with knew? What if the people at the gun club knew? Everywhere I went, what if they know? Oh my God! But that's kind of where I grew out of. And then as that is coming forward and that's all becoming realized, all those things in the past start going click, 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 where, I, always had, I always looked to the strong female role model, or like within like role-playing games, I'd always play the female character. If I had to write stories for class, I always wrote them from a female perspective. If, that sort of thing. Obviously, just like a lot of people have said, I did the, rummaging in my mom's closet when I was home alone after school in middle school sort of thing. Hi, Mom. And then, and then thinking back even further, there was like some really weird things. I've talked to a couple people who've had similar thoughts, like as 3 or 4 years old, playing like mental games where you're kidnapped and forced to be a girl. Like at 3 or 4 years old, how do you come up with that? Like I was thinking I should be a girl at 3 or 4 years old. No concept. And I'd even forgot about it until I kind of started making my own mental transition and figuring stuff out myself. So that's kind of where it all started and kind of where it grew from. And then, like I said, it really came to be with the figuring it out in around 2012, and then growing from there to where ultimately 2016 I started making inroads to actually doing something about it.
Okay. Well, there's a lot there. I'm writing some stuff down. Okay, so you knew you had a sense very early, but it wasn't until later that the pieces fell in place for you to truly get it.
Right.
Now, is that because of a lack of awareness at a younger age, like a lack of exposure to the idea of being transgender, or is it just because, you were forced into any, a specific gender role, presenting as male?
Sure. No. Yeah, it wasn't so much that I was forced into anything. I wouldn't say that at all. It was, and my cat's coming over to investigate, so we'll see if the phone doesn't go crashing down in a second. I just didn't have a context to put it into. I was a Boy Scout. I was an Eagle Scout by the time I was 14 years old. I loved doing, going out and exploring in the woods and doing, boy things. I don't begrudge my boy childhood. that is part of who I am. It's part of what made me who I am, and I don't begrudge any of that. But yeah, I would strongly say that it was just a lack of context in which to put it. And I don't know, being, the 80s and early 90s, I don't know how that would have gone over at all. Probably not well. Even though the house I grew up in, it was a much more liberal home than my parents' home is now. Now it's extremely conservative. Very conservative. If you go over there, Fox News is the only thing on the television. It's a very conservative, very difficult house sometimes to be in while being trans. But the house I grew up in was very liberal. So who knows what that would have looked like. But yeah, just lack of context. See, once you get me going, I just keep talking.
You're fine. And I will interrupt you when I feel like you've answered the question and we need to move on.
Perfect.
This isn't my first rodeo there, Clara. Okay, I love the cup, by the way. Okay, so...
Thank you. Got all my stickers.
Okay, so we have this context. Now, you said you were involved in the theater. Did you find other allies that, identified? Now, you said that this notion had kind of been set aside and forgotten. But did you find yourself gravitating more towards people that would identify in the LGBTQ community with almost as an instinct? I didn't have friends for a very, very long time. From middle school to my junior year of high school, I didn't have any friends. And my elementary school friends all abandoned me in high school or in middle school. Things were really, really rocky. Then in sophomore year of high school, I found the theater department. And that, because I had a couple of acquaintances. That was as closest as I got to friends. So I had a couple of acquaintances that were in the theater department, and I kind of found my way to that because of stage crew and doing the construction part of it. And then from there was more of an introduction to a queer lifestyle. There's lots of gay kids in there, lesbians, bis, all the usual high school theater department. It's a cliche for a reason, folks.
It is. Stereotypes have a basis in truth sometimes.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, because I grew up doing theater myself. I was in theater when I was 9 years old, and I found myself, making friends with the homosexual, the homosexual boys and the lesbian girls and the ones that were kind of all over the place and didn't know yet. And it seems odd that we find ourselves going into a role that allows us to express ourselves as other people.
Yes.
It almost is interesting that, it's like we're trying to fulfill some kind of need to be other than we are. So that's been my experience with the theater community. Okay, so you've had this experience. You've started making friends, it sounds like. Good for you. I'm very happy. Now, at what, you came across this, at what point did it become all too much and you had to make a change? And what was the catalyst for that?
That was in 2016. It was, like I said, we're a long ways down the road from, graduating in 95, and so we're a long ways down the road. At this point, I had been married for almost 20 years. And it just got to be too much, like you said. At that point, that's when being transgender was in the news all the time because of Caitlyn Jenner and everything like that. And again, like other people said, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. Don't even get me started.
I try to avoid that subject.
Yes. But because of that, it was getting brought up in my household a lot. Not by me, but by my ex-wife, who was making every nasty comment she possibly could about it. And I think that's partly because she had a bit of a vibe about me at that point, because I certainly did at that point. And I think I was certainly giving that off. And I would speak up about, some transgender rights issues here or there, that sort of thing. But I remember we were at dinner one night, and that interview was on television. And she started railing about how that is the most horrific, disrespectful thing that any guy could ever do to their wife, and all this other kind of stuff, and how dare he do that to his family. And I'm just just sitting there with my head hanging, and I'm just like, this fucking sucks.
Right.
But so, you know, it just kept growing and growing. The thing that really kicked me over the edge of I have to do something was I was in a grocery store in Newport, Rhode Island, and I just ran in to get lunch. I was there for work, and I went in to get lunch, and I don't know if the person was trans or if they were a cross-dresser. I don't know. Not my business. Don't care. But they were probably 75, 80 years old. And so the appearance that they were giving off was that of like a 75-year-old man in a dress. And I just thought to myself, I can't be that person. You know, more power to them. God bless them. But for myself, I can't let that happen to me when I'm this close, when I know I just have to make these steps happen for me.
Absolutely.
And so from like one of the next days, I contacted, who did I contact? I contacted somebody I knew of a psychiatrist that would work with the trans community to make a diagnosis and to get them into therapy and that kind of stuff. So I don't remember who referred me, but I made the appointment, and then that kind of got the ball rolling there.
Okay. So what kind of timeline are we looking at? From this point of boiling over to the time where you're getting a referral, how long are we talking?
Oh, maybe a month or two. I mean, I've already kind of been talking to people at that point, so maybe a month or two. Then I get the consultation with him. He makes his diagnosis. And by the time I'm out of his office, my ex-wife was already on the phone outing me to her mother. And then he referred me to a therapist in my town, which is actually a really relatively small town. He referred me to a therapist that happened to be transgender, which was wonderful. So she understood what I was dealing with, and she understood where I was at and the things that I was struggling with. And then from there, I got a referral to not an endocrinologist, but just a nurse practitioner that was starting to move into the endocrinology side of things.
Okay.
I got the appointment with her, and this was, let's call this February.
Okay.
February of 2017 at this point. 16 still. Yeah, something like that, whatever. 2016. 17, yes. 2017. I know word.
If it took a month, you're looking at your timelines are starting to get screwy. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I got the prescription, and then I held on to it. Held on to it for over a month.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. I want to, before we move on, and we'll come back to that. We'll come back to this story, but I want to talk about this because this is something that I've been noticing is a commonality. There's a hesitation. It's that final acceptance. You know, it's that final hurdle before full, true acceptance of yourself. Mm-hmm. For me, it was about a day and a half.
Okay.
It was about a day and a half after I got my prescription before I took those pills, because I kept coming back. I was like, is this truly what I want? I know it is, but is this truly what I want? Because once I do this, I'm on this journey. It's a one-way road, folks. Mm-hmm. Or at least I convinced myself that, once I started, I couldn't possibly stop. And the more I speak to people, there seems to be this moment of almost like a balk, Mm-hmm. It's like, before we get that courage to start out on that journey. So tell me, what was running through your head at this moment?
There was a lot going through my head. So part of it was that there was so much. Part of it was that is this real? Is this true? Am I really trans, or do I just think I am? But what if I am and I don't do it? But what if I am and I don't, what if I am and I don't do it, but what if I'm not and I do it, and am I trans enough? God, that's the worst question in the history of the world. And then at the same time, though, one of the biggest things I was dealing with was, if I do this, will I lose my family? If I do this, will my kids get taken by my ex? And I couldn't. That was not a good scene. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
That was a very difficult scene to be in, and there was no way on earth I was going to allow my children to be taken by my ex. But, would this be grounds?
Claire,
Yes.
hold on one second. I knew this was coming. For those of you quoting the Queen song, could you stop? I'm like, I knew that was coming, so cut it out. All right. Yes. Is this real life? Is this just fantasy? I get it. You're very clever. Cut it
all
out.
Of you are funny.
Yes, you're hilarious.
So I didn't want that to happen. But at the same time, I had to do what I needed to do for me. But am I being selfish and greedy by doing that? So there was just so much rolling around in my head. And then at the same time, I had a personal goal for myself that I wanted to start transitioning before my 40th birthday.
Right.
So, and I knew that if my 40th birthday passed and I hadn't started transition, that had been a goal for about 2 years, about a year, maybe at that point 2 years, somewhere in there. And I knew that if that birthday passed, I would never do it. And I knew that my life would be a hellhole for the rest of it at that point.
Right.
So I started with the patches, and I put the first patch on April 26th, the day before my 40th birthday.
Okay, so you started with patches. Are you still taking patch? Are you still using patches?
No, I'm on the pills. Okay. I had started with the patches. I didn't like the patches because I didn't like the gummy mess that they left all around. I started on patches. Yeah, yes. I started on patches and finasteride, using finasteride as the anti-androgen.
Okay.
And that was bad. That was really, really bad. I had a horrific reaction to the finasteride, which left me in a severe suicidal depression.
Okay.
And one of the nice parts about that, though, is I needed somebody to talk to desperately. And so I drove up to Target, where I had a second job, and looked for my now wife.
Hello.
Looked for my now wife, and we chatted and we talked, and I came out to her, and and we kind of just talked, and it was a wonderful experience and a wonderful moment, and obviously it has led to very good places.
Yes, I have complimented you on the wonderfulness of your partner.
Yes.
Repeatedly.
Yes, quite so. But yes, so that's what I started with, and then went to the pills and Spiro after that. So.
Okay. So you're on estradiol at this point and spironolactone. Okay.
Correct.
So let us continue down this rabbit hole with your partner, with your lovely choice of life mate.
She's sitting on the couch, like right over there.
Okay. Well, so I can talk about her like she's not there and pretend that you can hear everything I say. Nothing but good things. So, from the beginning, were you romantic at the time that you came out?
No.
No. Okay, so from the beginning, she knew what she was getting into.
Yes.
Okay. I'm curious, did that... knowing ahead of time obviously builds a nice stability, and because it's not like you have a partner who's having to adjust. She knew ahead of time. Were there any moments that maybe she was questioning, like, okay, maybe is this right? Is this really what I want? I mean, you two are amazing together, and your pictures prove it. But that doesn't mean it was easy to get there. We can always have a rough journey and end in a good place. So. Mm-hmm. The road getting to where you are now, was it smooth and paved with gold, or was it, the rocky road that most of us get to experience?
This actually was pretty easy.
Okay, so I hate you a little bit. All right. Good.
Yeah, I know, I hear you. We were best friends before I came out. And so I came out to her, and then I came out at Target, and this was still, again, before we were romantically involved, and she, on her day off, came up, met me at Wendy's beforehand, saw me for the first time, and I'll never forget her running around her Jeep to give me a big hug with a giant smile on her face. And then she went with me to Target and sat through my entire beginning of my shift until I had a break, just to make sure that she was there in case anything went wrong. And it just continued like that, and it was wonderful.
I'm not crying. Shut up. You're crying. So, that's truly amazing. Many of us would be lucky to have such a partner. Okay, so that leads. Let's go back to because we kind of glossed over the ending of the first marriage. Sure. So let's go back to that. How did you, your ex outed you to everybody?
Everyone.
Everyone. Was that officially the end of the relationship? Did you guys try to work on it at that point? What happened?
This relationship was fraught with issues for a long time. It was a very long relationship. It was a high school sweetheart relationship. Went through college, got married junior year of college. I didn't know what a relationship was supposed to look like, really. And the last 10 years of it were really getting rough. And then the last 5 were a nightmare. Okay. An absolute living nightmare due to alcoholism, abuse, that sort of thing. And she ended up moving out, but we were still kind of together and stuff. And it was just a nightmare, and it needed to end. And this was kind of part of the catalyst that did it. But I think that really, I'd say that the real end was just the physical abuse and the effect it was having on the children, and this was a good catalyst for it.
Now, just so we're clear, the physical abuse was you as the recipient.
Of course, yes.
I'm making sure. I don't want to assume that everybody knows this. Now, I knew that, but I wanted you to say it for all of them, because you and I had actually discussed that at a previous point. Okay,
yeah, so... and a lot of it was it got worse when I came out to her as trans, because that gave her another reason to be angry.
Right.
And so I was beaten regularly for being transgender, along with any other of the issues that went with it.
And it just goes to show you folks, an abuser doesn't always have to be the man in the relationship. If you have 2 women in a relationship, one of them is just as equal of being an abuser as the other. If you have 2 men in a relationship, they can both equally be abusers.
Definitely.
If you have non-binary individuals, they can be abusers. It has nothing to do with that. So, I am sorry that happened to you. I like to look at the results in situations like these. Yes. I mean, the end result is so positive that, but at the same time, would I have much preferred you didn't have to go through that? Of course I would. I mean, anybody who cares about being a decent human being is going to say that. But okay, now how are your kids?
My kids are good. I've got 4 kids. I've got 2 20-year-old, almost 21-year-old stepsons. They're twins. I've got a 20-year-old son, and then I have a almost 13-year-old son.
Okay.
And my son, and I think that he's fine with everyone knowing this, that's on this right now. My son is also transgender.
Right. There are pictures on your feed, everybody, and on Clara's feed. I think the time that I knew for sure was the baseball game you guys went to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I was like, oh.
I think that's the first time I used the he, his, and his name on Instagram.
See, I'm paying attention. I'm doing my
Look
job.
At that.
Look at me. I'm a decent person. Sometimes I wonder. Okay, so how is that? How has your son? How has it been being able to be a role model and resource for your son in this situation?
It's been very interesting. I think it's a relatively unique perspective that I have. It's given me a complete different look at being trans.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm seeing it from an outside point of view. I'm struggling with the pronouns. Finally, I've gotten to where I use the proper pronouns the majority of the time, but I still slip every now and then. I've been able to handle the name for longer than I've been able to get the pronouns right. So it gives a very interesting perspective from that side of things. But also at the same time, I can get a text message saying, he still calls me Dad. He goes, Dad, I'm in the bathroom. I'm crying. I don't know what's wrong. Everything is not right, and having a full dysphoric panic attack in the bathroom of school. And I know what that's like. I know. I'm like, it's okay, dude. They come out of nowhere. Like, do you know what triggered it? And he's like, no, I don't know. It's okay. And we can have that conversation. And I can know where he's coming from, and I can know those feelings that he's having, and I know how to talk to him. And he's come to me with questions in the past, whether it be, gender-related questions or just orientation-related questions, things like that. And we just have a frank and open conversation about it. And he just tells me how happy he is to be in a household where he can ask these questions without fear.
That honestly, how many of us would have loved to have that,
Right?
I'm like,
absolutely.
I'm pretty sure that's kind of dream life goal there. Okay. Yeah. Before we move on, I have a question posted. Wendy from Bakersfield, California, longtime viewer, first time caller, says,
hi, Wendy.
I love your Instagram name. Is there a meaning behind it?
All right, I'm going to go ahead and plug my phone in, so we're going to get a little jostly here.
Okay.
I'm going to try and keep it as steady as possible.
Can we call you Jocelyn then?
Ha 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 ha.
It wasn't that funny.
So I've been using Spork Dork or some variant of Spork something since high school on the old BBSs. So I'm back. I was just adjusting the plug.
There we go.
So Sporkman was my handle.
Okay.
For a long time on BBSs and the local bulletin boards and that sort of stuff. For those of you who don't know, the internet kind of started as call-in boards where you would call in with a modem that would screech really loud.
Right.
So anyway, that's where that kind of started. And then I continued using that in some form of all of my email addresses going down the line. And then when my friend invited me to Gmail, this is back when Gmail was invite only, I was like, oh, I've already got a bunch of email addresses. I'll just go with SporkDork. I don't care. I'm never going to use this email address. Then it became my primary email address. So then it just kind of stuck to everything I use.
Darn you, Google.
Damn it.
All right. I've got a couple more questions here.
Sure.
From Devin, Southern Queen 77. What do the kids call you in public?
Dad.
Dad? Okay, yep. I'm going to answer this one for me. For a long time, I went by Dad, but I found myself getting outed by them. And, it would draw enough attention that people who would normally have just glanced past me, because I have a very a distant, passive, kind of passing privilege, where as long as they're not looking too hard, I can sell it. but as soon as my kids start calling me dad, I'm screwed.
You're done. Yeah.
We came out with we worked together. We talked about it, and we came up with the name Addie.
Okay.
It's like dad, just moving the D. So that worked for us. But that was one of the reasons. Now there's one more question here. Why are you the most amazing person on the planet, Clara? And this is from Katie Bitches. So I expect an answer.
That's Katie. That was Katie asking. She is like one of my absolute truest best friends. She's my sword sister. We're in a sword warrior together. She's my sword family. I'm an awesome person because Katie and my friend Jen and Amy are in my life.
Aww.
That's why I'm an awesome person.
Yeah, that's probably true. Okay, so let's talk about your hobby a little bit, because I mean, we can't have an interview with you without you talking about your badass sword wielding side of you. I remember watching a video you posted at like a broadsword competition, and now I have a couple of questions here.
Sure.
Is there, are they divided by gender?
They are. There are two different things. There is open tournaments, which is open to anyone regardless of gender, and then there are also women's tournaments.
Yeah. And which do you participate in, my dear? Both?
I fight in the women's tournaments mostly, but I'm starting to move into also fighting in the open tournaments.
Okay.
The open tournaments, the open tournaments are a lot. They're big, so there's a lot of fighting. But your skill level definitely increases, because you're getting is another level of stuff. So
I'm sorry, I just had this picture of a D&D role-playing sheet. The more fights you're in, the skill level increases.
It is.
You get hit points and all that stuff.
It is. It's exactly like that.
What I find is very funny, I'm still one of the only trans people I know that never actually played a D&D game.
What?
I played a role-playing game one time, and the DM killed me off in the first roll. So
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, so I've never played again. I don't see the point. If you can die that quickly in a game, what's the point? See, if I wanted to die that quickly, I'd play a game on PS4 where I'm completely competent. Okay, so now, I want to ask, has there ever been, now I know the sword community that you're part of is pretty tight-knit from what I've gathered talking to you, but has there ever been an issue with others being in competition against you?
You mean from a standpoint
from a gender standpoint, where
transgender competition within a women's environment? There are people who will bring that up. There are people who will question that. Most of the events that I have been to have been extremely queer-friendly.
Okay.
It's a very, very queer-friendly environment. Most of the events that I've been to, I've never run into an issue, and I know a lot of trans women at this point that compete in HEMA. What I do is HEMA. It's Historic European Martial Arts, and so it's fighting with long swords or sword and shield or rapier and dagger, and that sort of wrestling, things like that.
All that cool stuff you see at a Renaissance fair, except cooler because it's real.
Because it's real, and we're hitting each other hard.
Yeah, and there's no lances that break on contact.
As a friend of mine said, there's something very therapeutic about being able to hit guys with 4 feet of steel.
Hit them with something.
But yeah, so I haven't run into that issue, but it is a topic of conversation that does come up. And I've actually made a Facebook post to that effect, like what the effect of estrogen is on the body, what the effect of spironolactone and testosterone blockers is on the body, and how women in sport, particularly trans women in sport, do not have that mythological advantage that people want to say you have.
No, our testosterone levels are lower than some of these cis women. Days where getting out of bed is a really hard thing to do just because it's so hard to stand up. I get tired.
It's really difficult sometimes. And when I first started on spirulactone, there were days I couldn't get through the warm-ups.
Right.
I had to stop. I didn't have the levels to be even get through the warm-ups, let alone make it through a fight.
Absolutely.
And I did find that, getting to the gym, working out, all of that has helped. And that's the exact same thing that a cisgender woman needs to do. Whether you be cisgender or transgender, it's the amount of time and effort and energy that you put into your study and you put into your training that goes into your betterment. It's not, what's flowing through your veins.
Okay, I have one of our Vanessa. I mean, you know who Vanessa is. Vanessa.
Yeah.
She asked if you would post a link to that article, like in your bio on your IG.
Sure, I'll figure out a way to do it. I think I may do it as like a series of screenshots and put it up as a post on Instagram, something like that.
Put it in your story if you're going to do that. It's easier to see that, read that way.
Okay, cool.
Because then people can save it to their own.
Okay.
They can send it to themselves that way. Okay. Plus, I think it would read better, just honestly from an aesthetic standpoint. Okay, so we have this question, which is I'm really glad that you're on here about this, because this question of trans women in sport, and it's in all the papers, it's in all the, there's articles about it, and there's this, like you said, this mythological advantage that trans women have over cis women, which is just, as all of us trans women know, is total malarkey.
Right.
Like, if I had an advantage, I'd like to know where it is, because I haven't found it yet.
Yes.
I know I struggle opening jars of pickles now. I didn't used to do that. I was like,
it's like the biggest, cruelest joke.
I got a jar of pickles at the grocery store, and I had some guy in the car next to me open it for me because I couldn't get it open, and I wanted pickles so badly.
We crave pickles, yet they remove our ability to open the jar. How cruel is that?
That is an ironic cruelty. Yes. All right, so now you've been transitioning for what, 2.5 years?
About a year and 3/4 ish.
A year and 3/4. Okay, so my time frame is completely off. I apologize for my pastiness.
2 years.
And my
2 years. 2 years.
I think it's closer to 2
years.
over
2 years. I'm sorry, that's my mistake.
Yes.
I'm like, my math going by your dates here. I
don't trust my math ever.
I'm right. So I'm completely thrown off now. That's it. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I give up. This is the last interview. Everybody who was scheduled after Clara, you're just out of luck.
Tough luck. I ruined it for everybody.
No, we're going to get Vanessa to take over from this point forward. Okay, so. Good Lord. I knew this one was going to be a challenge. I just didn't think it was going to be like that. Okay, so where do you see yourself going for this? It's like you. Thank you, Wendy. I feel I look like very pale. I got a black eye still on both eyes, and it's been a rough day. So yeah, I'm. If you say I look beautiful, I'm going to take your word for it, because I feel
like
roadkill. Okay, so. And not the good kind that you can fry up and eat. I'm that flat kind that the vultures have already picked at for a few days. Okay, so where do you see yourself going? It's like, as far as your let's do transition first. Where do you see it going with your transition? And of course, you can always refrain from answering anything you don't feel comfortable with talking about. And less graphic detail, the better. So,
no problem.
What do you see your transition looking like from this point forward? You're already pretty, and it makes me angry with you, but.
I see a few things. I'm looking from a medical standpoint. I'm looking at possible hair transplant to fix that. So I'm looking at that. I actually have an appointment coming up on the 25th. I'm going to one of those Bosley places to kind of investigate that, at least to get some ideas. I'm trying to do a voice training sort of thing.
Okay.
Right now, which I have exercises I have to do and that sort of stuff. Because if that doesn't really work out for me, then I'm going to try. I'm looking at the possibility of voice surgery. I have a good friend who's had that, and she's had really good results.
I know somebody who has too, and she's got really great results. Yeah, I think we all do. Everybody knows,
right? and I might be even thinking of a different person. But,
I know. I'm just like everybody knows. Everybody knows at least one.
At least one, right? And then probably a breast augmentation. But outside of that, that's about it.
Yeah, you can't all be blessed like me. I've been very lucky in that department. I'm a very slight-framed person, so the fact that I've had the breast growth that I've had actually puts me in about where I would be as a cis woman. You know, I'm at 36A right now, but they're always hurting, so they're going to get bigger. But you know. Plus, for me, I've already spoken with the doctor, and they said that I'm absolutely not a good candidate for breast augmentation because they would have to go underneath the muscle. And when they do that, there's all kinds of complications. So, so we're talking about voice, you know, most of this stuff up here, you know, totally understandable. Let me ask you a personal question.
Sure.
How's
just between you and me,
and you know the 200 people that might watch this?
Whatever.
Just so you know, that's the average right now for the live stream post is about 200 people that look at it. Now I don't know if they actually watch it. Personally, I think maybe morbid curiosity. But how has the hormone replacement therapy affected your love life?
It's interesting. The desire is not there as much as it was, but everything still works for the most part.
Right.
It's kind of like a roll of the dice. You know, will it today? Nope. Will it today? Yes. Cool.
Okay.
But, you know, there's a lot of learning involved, you know, how to go about doing other things. There's a whole lot of options with the human body that are, you know, better than others.
We are 42, so that may not be the hormones. That just may be the age.
But, you know, without getting too graphic, you know, things definitely, you know, are different. You know, there's, you know, crazy new sensations in different parts of my bodies that didn't have sensations before. And some sensations are kind of, you know, gone from where they were before. And so it's a really interesting journey and a really interesting learning experience trying to figure out this new body.
Right. Okay. We're getting in the last 10 minutes here.
Okay.
But I do want to address this because this is something that I think we skate over a lot. Arousal as a transgender woman is different than when we start as men.
Yes.
I know that arousal for me has moved more to like lower stomach area.
Yep.
And it's really hard to explain, but it took a long time for me to figure out what was happening because I get this sensation and it's desire. It's nothing more than physical desire, and it took me forever to figure that out. So do you have that same kind of thing, or is this just me?
No, it has moved. Instead of being the lower front area, it's actually moved back some.
Okay.
It's weird. It like I said, it's really, really weird. It's like it's like right in the middle down there. It's not really associated with any particular body part.
Right.
It's just this interesting feeling that's just there. It is very bizarre.
It's almost like it knows where something's supposed to stand.
Exactly. It's in that place where something else should be.
Yeah. Phantom vagina. That's what we call it.
That works.
That is
we'll
so
coin the
odd.
term. TM.
Oh. Absolutely. Okay, so we've discovered some new things today, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. We still have a few more minutes, so we're not done embarrassing embarrassing me just yet. So, what would your advice be to your son or to other transgender youth who may be first experiencing, oh, we did just in time. Do you feel like desire is more mental now? Okay, another question from Wendy. Do you feel like desire is more mental than it used to be?
Yes. Yeah.
The answer is
definitely.
yes. The answer is absolutely
There's less of a
yes.
physical desire and more of a mental desire.
And at the same time, if there is not that mental engagement, there is no physical response. It's like
mental has to be in there. There's no question.
You know,
if like it's just, you know, for whatever reason it ain't happening, and the mental part kind of just gets turned off.
Right.
Then it's just done. There ain't
we're
nothing
going to move
going
off
on
this
from that
subject
point.
because we had a rather young viewer log in, so we're going to move away from this topic now.
No problem.
All right, so let's get back to this. What would your advice be to Hi Felicity? Yes, I see you. I saw you when you logged in. That's why we're changing the subject. Okay, so what would your advice be to younger trans folks? Or even any LGBTQ people?
Just own it.
Oh.
Fucking own it. Sorry.
Right. Sometimes an expletive is necessary.
Yes, just own it. Be who you are and who you are meant to be. You know, walk into a room and own that room. You know, it's not about. I know we have a tendency to kind of shrink away a little bit, to want to hide because we feel that there's something different about us or that there's something that's not right about us. But no, you are right. You have every right to be in the space occupied by the cisgender world or by the straight world. And walk into any room and just own it and own yourself and never think I'm less than, because you're not.
Amen. Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. I will also say this. When you walk into a room hesitant and shy and hiding, you're far more likely to draw attention to yourself than if you walk in with confidence. So there is some practicality to that advice, but that is truly amazing advice, Clara. Thank you so much. Our hour is done.
Already?
Yeah, we have about 4 minutes left on my clock.
Okay.
But I mean, we're essentially, if we start another subject, we're going to run out of time. So
yes, we will.
Thank you so very much for joining me, everyone. Thank you for tonight. Tonight was fun and exciting and a little bit racy. But hey, I knew what I was getting into when this girl said she'd do an interview with me. So. It has been my absolute pleasure. Would you like to say any parting words?
No, it's been an absolute blast. It's been so much fun. I was a little nervous, but it has been absolutely so much fun, and I hope to do it again sometime.
I find it very interesting. I get that a lot. Why is everybody so nervous to come on here and talk with me? This is just me, folks.
Yeah, right? And we're just talking about ourselves, and we're all good at that.
You have a subject that it's like, whatever, okay. You know the subject matter. It's not like I'm going to ask you any trick questions.
Right.
It's like, what's your favorite color? Woo! You know?
Blue! No, red! Ah!
Yeah. Thank you for finishing my reference. I appreciate it. All right, so... ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching Transfigure Nation tonight. We've explored a lot about being yourself and being comfortable in your own skin. As always, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, but always be yourself. Have a good night.